today we're going to be looking at IELTS speaking and talking about people. So the outline for the presentation is we will look at common questions, useful vocabulary, how to generalize, and then there'll be the Q&A, which will be sort of 10 minutes or so at the end. So the aims of the webinar are that you will be able to describe people you know using idiomatic vocabulary. So idiomatic vocabulary, can anyone explain to me what that means? Do you need me to speak more loudly? Okay, I'm trying to speak loudly. Can everybody hear me okay? No? Okay, yes, some of you can, some of you can't. Yeah, so it's using idioms, it's using the kind of language we use when we speak, so more sort of slang expressions. You will also be able to use planning strategies to give a fluent answer in part 2, because that tends to be the part that people struggle with a little bit. We will also be able to talk about stereotypes and give exceptions. So let's start with true or false questions. How much do you know about IELTS speaking? So the first statement is that speaking test lasts 15 to 18 minutes. True or false? False. Okay, most of you are saying false. That's correct. Okay, so how many minutes does it actually last? Up to 50, almost. Okay, it's 11 to 14 minutes. Okay, the next question. There are 3 parts to the test. Is that true or false? True, that's right. Can you name them? Okay, that's a very easy question. Yeah, parts 1, 2, and 3. In the first part, you'll be asked about personal topics. True or false? True, yeah, everyone's saying true, good, that's correct. What kinds of topics might you be asked about? So any ideas of the types of topics? Hometown, family, that's right. Common, food, family, job, family, sport. Yeah, you've got, sorry, they're going so fast. I can't actually give you, I can't actually address you by name, but yes, all things like that. So hobbies, jobs, hometown, family, food, schooling, yes, study, fashion, photographs. Okay, another one is internet. So just general questions about those topics. In the second part, you'll be given a choice of topics to talk about. Is that true or false? Okay, some of you are saying true, some of you are saying false. Okay, unfortunately, it's false. So you don't get a choice. You have to talk about what you're given. In the second part, you'll have 30 seconds to prepare. Is that true or false? False. Okay, everyone is saying false. That's great. And some of you are given the right answer. So yes, 1 minute, that's correct. You will then talk about this topic for a maximum of 2 minutes. Is that true or false? Yes, good. Everybody's saying true, so that's great. So yeah, 1 to 2 minutes. In the final part of the test, you'll discuss a new topic. Is that true or false? Okay, most of you are saying false, that's correct. So the topic will be connected with which section? Yeah, part 2, that's right. So it'll have something to do with part 2. So you need to remember the keywords from part 2, and then you'll be discussing that related questions in part 3. Okay, the final part of the test is connected to a personal topic, so you should include personal examples and preferences. Is that true or false? False. So yes, everybody's saying false. Some suggest you're saying true. False. Okay, it's false. So the personal topics are really part 1 and part 2. Okay, you can ask the examiner to explain a question if you don't understand. Is that true or false? Okay, a lot of you saying true. Really true, Adriana. Hanan says false. Rephrase. Okay, it's actually false, but you can ask them to repeat it. So you can't really ask them to explain the question because you need to understand it. Okay, but you can, if you don't hear them, you can ask them to repeat it. Okay, so let's now look at part 1. So in part 1, you might be asked about the people in your life. Okay, so if you look at those pictures, who do you think these people are? So if you start with the picture in the top 2 pictures, what's the first one? Family. Yep, family members. So there's quite a lot of different people in that family. So it could be extended family, and maybe a few generations of family there. And the picture next to it, what do you think that one is? So you've got 2 houses next to each other. Okay, neighborhood, Abdullah. A neighborhood is like the whole area. So when you're thinking about people, neighbors, that's right. Good. So you could be asked to talk about neighbors. What about the bottom 2 pictures? So the one on the left. Workmates. Yeah, good. Workmates is a nice colloquial word. Or you could say colleagues, that's right. Any others? Colleagues, yes. Yeah, so they're in a meeting. So yeah, I think colleagues is probably the best word to use there, or workmates. And then the picture next to that. Friends. Yeah, best buddies, nice. Besties, yes, you've got lovely colloquial expressions there. BFF, you could say that. Friends. Yeah, so all of those are fine. Besties is great. Okay, so think about the types of questions you might be asked about these people. What kinds of questions do you think? Close friends, that's right. Yes, actually, sorry. So what kinds of questions might you be asked about these pictures? What about the top one with the family? Describe your family. Yeah. Tell me about your family. Good. Those kind of questions are fine. Talk about your childhood friends. Are you, yes? Who do you admire in your family? That's a good one. That's a nice one, Marianne. How often do you see your extended family? What do you like to do with your family? That's another good one. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, the neighbors. What kind of questions could you be asked about neighbors? Explain about, okay, describe your neighbor, yes? Are your neighbors friendly? Is your neighbor good? Okay, to live next to, you might say. How do you feel about your neighbor? That's Jasmine, that's a great question. Do you have a good relationship with your neighbor? That's a good one. Remember, if you have a question which is, do you, you need to explain a little bit more. So don't just say yes or no. So you need to expand your answer if you can. Okay, and then the bottom question with the colleagues, what kind of questions could, sorry, the bottom picture, what kind of questions could you be asked about that one? Describe your colleagues. Yes, describe your work environment. That's good. Describe your workplace. Yes. Who is your best colleague at work, Romero? That's a good question. How do you cooperate with your colleagues? How friendly are they? Yes, they're all great questions. And then the best friends, besties. How long have you known him or her? That's good. Okay, you're still talking about the workplace. So who do you see as a role model at work? That's a good question. Describe your best friend. Yeah, any others about best friends? That's a nice one. What is the last trip you did with your best friend? How often do you meet each other? Okay, all these kinds of questions are great ones. So you can kind of brainstorm a little bit before you do IELTS. So think about the types of questions you might be asked so you're really prepared. Okay, now let's move on to describing people. So how would you describe these people? So if you look at A, can you think of any adjectives? Adventurous, that's nice, yeah. Active, mountain biker. Perilous, that's a great word. Brave, courageous, daredevil. Risky. Yes, I was thinking about this before, and I came up with one or two words. Reckless is one, depending on your perspective. Intrepid is another one. You could say this person is living on the edge. It's another good expression. And now if you look at B, what do you think about these people? How would you describe them? Caring, yes. Warm, yeah. Loving, supportive. Yeah, caring. So some of the words you're using are great. Others, maybe I understand them, but maybe not so natural in English. But some of them are really good words. Active, okay, I think that's for A. Yeah, affectionate, good. That's the really nice word. Okay, and what about C? Ambitious, nice. Studious is another good word. Okay, make sure that some of you are putting up nouns there. Okay, make sure that you're using adjectives. So you could say, yeah, hardworking, determined. She's absorbed in her book. That's a nice expression. You could also say, I came up with diligent. So diligent is a good word. Studious, you've said. Focused. Passionate, could be passionate. Yeah, and then D. Creative, talented. Engrossed, somebody said, which is a good word. Dreamer, possibly. Yes, nice. Okay, so we've covered some of this vocabulary already, so I'll run through it fairly quickly. But who would you describe as creative? D, yeah, I think that's obvious. So D is creative. Adventurous. A, definitely adventurous. Supportive. B, yeah, I think you have to say supportive for that one. Okay, this word is one that a lot of people get confused about. So it's pronounced conscientious. Conscientious. People get mixed up with conscience. Okay, so it's quite different, it has quite a different meaning. It's a false friend. So conscientious is good. Everyone knows this. That's great. So C. What's the synonym for conscientious? It could be D as well, actually. That's right. Yeah. What's the synonym for conscientious? Focused. Sort of similar. Yeah, hardworking. So it's very similar to hardworking. Diligent is similar as well. Considerate. B. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the only one you can say is considerate because there are more than one people in the picture. So I think that's the only one. And sporty, it's kind of obvious as well. A, yeah, it's got to be A. What about reliable? B. Yeah, I think B is definitely reliable. Well, the grandfather is reliable. Any others you could say are reliable? Yeah, it's possibly C. She looks as if she's probably a reliable person. She's studying, so she's quite serious about what she's doing. That suggests she's reliable. Ambitious. C. Yeah, most of you saying C, some are saying D. I think you can be ambitious in different ways. So I would say C definitely. D, you could be ambitious. Maybe even A, you don't know. And then artistic is obviously going to be D, yes. Okay, patient. You're done with these pictures, okay. Thank you for that. So patient is probably D. D, yes, it could be D. It could be C. I think, in fact, probably B, C, and D. Okay, and then generous. B. Yeah, generous. So generous, he's probably, you could say he's generous with his time, this old man. Talented. Who's talented? D. Okay. Yeah, D, I would say probably C, probably A as well. Yeah, confident. A is definitely confident, that's right. Okay, so we've got these adjectives here. Think about who you're closest to in your family and what qualities they have. Okay, for example, I'm closest to my sister. So she, probably because she's very supportive, she's considerate, and she's also really generous with her time. So I speak to her every week on the phone and she gives me a lot of time when I have a problem. So the example we've got here, so in my family, I'm probably closest to my brother Alex. Okay, so that's answering the question. And then giving a reason. So he's very creative, confident, and a talented person. And then you can give an example. Okay, he plays guitar and sings in a band. So how to use considerate. Okay, so when you're considerate is when you think about somebody else. Okay, so you think about their situation. So good, I'm closest to my older brother Ryan because he's genuine and supportive. That's nice, April. Yeah, so you're answering the question, then you're giving a reason why, and you give an example. So that's a nice full answer. Oh, if you don't have any brother or sister, I'm sorry. You can choose somebody else. So it could be your grandparents, it could be your mother or your father. Okay, and then which 3 adjectives would you use to describe yourself? Okay, this could be more difficult. So I would say, in my case, I would say I'm sporty, I'm creative, and I'm reliable. Okay, so at the beginning of the answer, if they ask you that question, instead of just saying I am, because it's your opinion and it's a little bit subjective, you can say I'd say. And then in this case, I can also be, right? So that shows that you're not always like that, but sometimes you are. And if you add an expression like at times at the end, okay, that shows you're not always like that, just sometimes you are. And it's also nice to start with something like, well, that's a difficult question. Okay, it's quite a natural expression. Yeah, so we've got some very nice answers coming up here. Sorry, I can't acknowledge them all. It's just it's a bit difficult. We've got some lovely answers. But yeah, just to remember with this one, I'd say, I can also be. Okay, so now quickly looking at these pictures here. So how would you describe these relationships? So the top one. Okay, we've got 2 expressions here that we use quite a lot in English. Get on well and fallen out. So the first one, do they seem to get on well? Yeah, they do. Good. Can you think of another expression to describe that picture? Get along with each other, Andrea. Yeah, so if you add with, that's a great expression. You can say have a good relationship. That's fine. Get along is another one. They get along well. Okay, another expression I thought of beforehand is they're on the same wavelength. Okay, that's quite a good expression you could use. So particularly to describe the relationship you have with your best friend, you can say we're on the same wavelength. You could also say we click. That's a nice short expression. Yeah, close knit. That's with family, you could say that. Click. Yeah, click is when you just really connect with somebody quite well. We really click, you could say. Any others? We are besties, yes. Get along. Quite a team. That's a nice one, Ty was. You could say we are quite a team. That's nice. Like sisters, Rabin. That's very good as well. We're like sisters. Yeah. So there's some good expressions there. Okay. If you look at the bottom picture, have they fallen out? What do you think? Fighting. Yeah. Argumentative. So they've fallen out. So that's an expression we use a lot in English. Can you think of any other similar ones? Yeah, heated arguments. You could say they're having a heated argument. They don't get along well. They're not on the same page. That's a nice one, Diego. They're having a blazing row. I like that one as well. Yeah, a blazing row. Any others? Don't click. That's true. Yeah. So I'm just picking out the ones that we would use quite often, colloquial expressions. They're having a quarrel. That's another one, a quarrel, which means the same as row. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so I'm going to give you some expressions now. I just want you to think about whether you could use these expressions to describe your relationship with a friend, a partner, or both. Okay, so the first one is this one, which we've kind of looked at before. We get on well with each other. What would you say? Both. That's right. It was love at first sight. Partner. Yes. I really enjoy their company. Both. Yep. We have a lot in common. Both, that's right. Yeah. Okay, and this expression I really like. We hit it off right away. Yeah, some of you saying friend, but yeah, it is actually both. I just thought of another expression. We get on like a house on fire. I don't know if you've heard that before. Get on like a house on fire. So that could be partner or both as well. Okay, this one, we hang out from time to time. So this originally, I think it was an American expression, but now we use it as well. Yeah. Why do you think, so some of you were saying both there. Why do you think it's friend and not both? Yeah, Mohammed, good. So it's because it uses the expression from time to time. What does that mean, from time to time? Can you think of a synonym? They don't hang out regularly, Pavan, that's right. Not always. Occasionally, yes, that's right. So obviously if it's a partner, hopefully they should be hanging out more than occasionally. So if it said we hang out a lot, okay, that would probably be okay for partner, but from time to time is friend. We've been together for 5 years now. Yeah, partner. And then the last one, we've kept in touch over the years. Yeah, again, I wouldn't say it was both, unless you've got a long distance relationship, but friend for that one. Okay, so now let's talk about your friends and family. So do you prefer spending time with friends or family? Okay, this is an example of a not a very good answer. So it's far too short. How could we develop that? What could you say? Yes, I do. Okay, that is, I mean, that is the beginning of the answer. Exactly. You need to explain why you enjoy spending time with your family. So you could start with a nice linking expression here. So to tell you the truth, that's a very natural expression in English. To tell you the truth. Spending quality time with my family is more important to me. Okay, so that's answering the question. But as you can see, you're kind of paraphrasing a little bit. And then you need to give a reason. Because I'm very busy with work these days. Okay, and then an example. In the evenings, it's nice to have a quiet dinner together. And then an alternatives, or at the weekends, we might go for a walk somewhere. Okay, so if you look at the side, it says you can answer question, reason, example, alternatives. If you remember that, so that spells out area. So that should help you when you're answering these questions. And summarize, you can summarize it as well. So by summarizing, so that's how I like to spend my free time. Okay, so by summarizing, you're kind of wrapping up the question. So you're giving a really full answer. Okay, so let's just look at the next one. Who is your best friend? So John, that's not a very, not a very good answer, just one word. How can we develop this answer? You can answer the question. Okay, so what would you say? Who's your best friend? So you can start with a phrase like I would say, or I'd say that. So rather than just going in saying John or my best friend is John, it's kind of natural to use a phrase like this. Well, I'd say that my closest friends, as you can see, this person has found a synonym for best friend. Closest friend is probably John. Okay, then a reason. We went to school together and we've kept in touch ever since. Okay, so as you can see with the reason, they haven't given a conjunction. So it's not always necessary when you speak to give a conjunction. You just need to speak in a natural way. And then an example. So in this case, you can add, for example, even though he lives in New Zealand now, we still catch up regularly over Skype. Okay, and then you can add an alternative. So I'm also planning to go and visit him perhaps next year. And then the last part, what you do for the last part. So the last part, so with S, what does the S stand for again? Summarize, good. So yes, that's who I consider to be my best friend. Okay, so that really wraps up your answer very well. So if you can get used to answering like that, you should score a high band in that section. Okay, and then the next one, what qualities do you think are most important in a friend? Okay, so this person has said honest and reliable, which is obviously too short again. Okay, and then answering the question, you could start with a phrase like, in my opinion. Can you think of any similar phrases? According to me, okay, that actually we don't really say that so much in English. Well, I think it's a little bit too common. From my perspective, okay, that's a good expression. In my view, that's good as well. My point of view, you can say from my point of view. So just make sure that you've got the correct preposition. As far as I'm concerned, good, Nilofer. For me, nice, yes. To be honest as well, Merza, that's good. So try to start off with an expression like that. So in my opinion, a good friend should be honest and reliable. Okay, and then a reason, because. Okay, why do you think? Yeah, to be frank is okay for the beginning. So why do you think a good friend should be honest and reliable? Yeah, it's to do with trust. That's right, Neo. Trust is required. Trustworthy. Yeah, something to do with trust. So it's important to be able to trust your friends. And then an example. So we had it for example before. So for instance, if you need help with something, or it's an alternative, if you need someone to talk to you, you know they'll be there for you. Okay, and then summarize. For me, those are the qualities I look for in my friends. Okay, so that's a very natural answer. Okay, then looking at part 2. So it's a good idea when you do part 2 to plan quite carefully. So as you know, you need to speak for 2 minutes, you need to develop your ideas logically, and you need to improve your fluency and accuracy. So this example, so describe a person who influenced you as a child. You should say who this person was, what kind of person they were, what your relationship was like, and explain how they influenced you. Okay, is it important to mention all those things, would you say? Romero says yes. No. Moses says no. Okay, these are what we call prompts. So they're giving you suggestions of what you can talk about, but don't get too hung up on them. Don't sort of get fixated on them. So as long as you're able to answer the question, so describe a person who influenced you as a child, that's fine. So these are just suggestions to enable you to speak. One thing you can do is to underline keywords and use them as headings. So in this case, what do you think the keywords are? Person, who, yeah, influenced. Okay, let's have a look. So who, the kind of person, relationship, how they influenced you. So they're the 4 main things. So when you're taking notes, because obviously you don't have very long, so you can just scribble down these keywords and then just get some ideas next to them. Okay, for example, my father, kind of person. So he's hardworking, with a good sense of humor, and relationship. Okay, so their relationship was they used to go for walks in the countryside, and then how he influenced. So he encouraged my love of nature. All right, so you've got those notes, and it just would be very easy, I think, to talk about those notes. And then you can link these ideas together and add some details. So a good way to start answering this question, part 2. So today I would like to talk about my father. Can you think of another way of introducing part 2 instead of saying I'd like to talk about? Well, yeah, that's very short. Let me kick off by, that's nice, it's quite informal. I'd like it to introduce you. Okay, I'm happy to speak about my father. Let me start. Yeah, let me start by telling you about my father. That's a nice way to start. Okay, so today I'd like to talk about my father because he's been a huge influence in my life. Let me tell you. So that's a really nice phrase to use. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a. Okay, what could you say here? He's a. Yeah, so looking at the notes. Hardworking. Yeah, he's a very hardworking person, but he also has a great sense of humor. What I admire most about him is, okay, that's another useful phrase to use. He made a lot of sacrifices to help raise me and my siblings. And then you can give an example. When I was little, we used to go for long walks in the countryside together. He would tell me about the different plants and wildlife we saw. Okay, so as you can see, this is a really good answer because it's using lots of different constructions. So you've got when I was little, got the past tense there, we used to, he would tell me about. So you're really showing the examiner what you know. And then I think this had a big impact on me because he encouraged my own love of nature. And this is the reason why I decided to study environmental science. Okay, so as you can see, this answer has everything in it. It's got linking expressions, got collocations, lots of different tenses, some good as I said, linking expressions, good vocabulary. Okay, and then now looking at part 3. So you may be asked to talk about people in general. One way to do this is to describe a stereotype and say whether you agree with it or not. Okay, so we have 3 flags here. Which country does each flag represent? Yeah, the first one is England. Second one? Good, Scotland. Yeah, that's right, Australia. So England, Scotland, and Australia. Can you think of a stereotype for each country? What would you say about England? Tea. Yeah, all English people drink tea. Tea, Queen, elegant. Brexit, yeah, don't talk about that. Royalty. Cold. Okay, so you've got a few stereotypes there. What about Scotland? Yeah, whiskey, wine, sporty, cold, mountains, beautiful place, heavy accent. Sure Jamie would like that. All right, and what about Australia? Kangaroo. Racist, oh dear. Hot summer, Aussie. Yeah, so some of these are stereotypes, some are just facts actually. So anyway, let's look at what we decided. So English people are supposed to have very good manners. Okay, but I'm not sure if that's true all the time, right? So I would say that I do, but not everyone does. I mean, we don't always have good manners. And then instead of saying, another way of saying are supposed to, you can say, use this expression, have a reputation for being. So Scottish people have a reputation for being. Okay, this word stingy, does anyone know what stingy means? Untidy, no? Smelly? Mean, yeah. Yeah, it means not very generous, stingy. So this is a useful word, so it's an example of a kind of an idiomatic expression. But I'd have to disagree with that. Most people I know here are very generous. And then Australians are famous for being. Okay, so that's another way of saying have a reputation for being and are supposed to. Are famous for being laid back and relaxed. Do you know this word This expression laid back. What does that mean? Lazy. Actually, I mean, it has quite a positive connotation. Lazy is quite negative. Laid back is similar to relaxed. No rush. Yeah, easy going. Good colored. That's right. Calm. Yeah. But I wouldn't say that's true of all of us. Okay, so can you describe a stereotype from your own country, just very quickly, so I haven't got very much time? What would you say about people from your country? Oh, sorry, Jamie, is it right? Time to finish?
No, you're fine. Thanks, Mary. Just, yeah, we'll maybe hear some of these examples and then
Yeah.
we can wrap up. Yeah.
Okay, so Germans know how to be punctual. That's right. So that's the stereotype. Brazilians are really touchy. I think you mean tactile. Diego, so you like touching people. Indians are hardworking. Vietnamese eat pho all the time. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I love that. Indians are amazing. Okay, that's not really stereotype, but I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's about all we have time for. So are there any questions?
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mary, for that
That's
presentation.
okay, Jamie.
It's great. Really enjoyable to watch the presentation and also to hear some of your contributions, guys. Some really nice vocabulary there to describe people, talking about stereotypes, discussing people you know. So well done. That's excellent. We will have some time now to discuss your questions in a moment. I would just like to do a little bit of promotion for our premium services, which I'll mention. We offer both a speaking evaluation and a writing evaluation service. So if you are interested in improving your speaking or writing, it's possible to book some time with one of our examiners. It could be Mary, it could be myself, another one of our team. And you can book a speaking session. We'll go through a full simulated mock test with you, and then we'll give you very detailed feedback on your performance as well, with strengths and weaknesses. You also get a written report summarizing what you need to do to improve your band score. So I've put the link to that in the chat. It's on our website, IELTSonlinetest.com. So if you're interested, please feel free to check it out. I've also put the links to our YouTube channel, which has all our previous webinars are up on there now, along with our Facebook page. And there's also the webinar site with all our upcoming sessions as well. So you can check that out. Bana, there is a charge for our evaluation service. It allows us to provide these webinars for free. So there is a cost involved for the speaking and writing evaluation. But you know, if you're interested, you can take a look. If not, we do offer these webinars as well as a free service. So I hope you find it helpful. So guys, I think we've got some time. We can take a look at some of these questions. And I think, Mary, maybe the two of us can work together to try and tackle these. So yeah. I have a first question from Manoj. Manoj is asking, in the computer-based test, do we get rough paper to make notes? Now, I actually know the answer to this because one of our former students got in touch last week. He did the computer-based test. He said that you are given 3 sheets of paper. You're allowed to make notes on the paper during the computer-based test. They also give you a pencil, which you can take away with you. So that you will get rough paper to make notes in the computer-based test. Okay. Second question here from Jasmine. Jasmine is asking, is it very bad if we keep saying all the time in the speaking test? What do you think, Mary?
Well, I would say, because one of the criteria for the speaking is fluency and coherence. So if you need to really be able to speak at length in order to score a high band in that section. So if you're hesitating a lot, so that's really, I mean, if you're saying all the time, it shows that you're not really as fluent as you might be. So it might affect your band.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you think, Jamie?
I'd agree with that, definitely. If you're pausing and hesitating a lot, it can interrupt your fluency and it can affect your coherence as well. So that will reduce your score. And then speaking, and if every word you're going, I want to talk, there's a difference there. It's okay to go a bit, but not in the middle of sentences too much. So that would be my suggestion. Sorry, Mary, I didn't hear you there. Oh, I'm not hearing you. Maybe I've cut out. Let's see. Can you hear me now at all? Sorry, guys. I think my connection might be unstable, so I'm not sure if you can hear me. Might have some technical issues. Let's see. If you can hear me, Mary, can you hear me? If you can wave to let me know you can hear me, that would be good. Okay, good, right, great. So, because I can't hear you, but let's see. If you can hear me okay, guys, can I just say, could you put your questions into the Q&A function? I can see you have a lot of questions in the chat, but if you can put them into the Q&A box. Okay, well, that's good. You can hear me, but not Mary. Mary, maybe you can check your speaker or microphone. Maybe even leave the webinar and come back in. If that doesn't work, it might reset your audio. Okay. So guys, if you can put your questions into the Q&A, I'll do my best to answer them while we're waiting for Mary to come back. Okay. So let's take a look. We've got a question from Ruji. Ruji is asking, should we answer all the bullet points that are on the cue card? And yeah, the answer to this, Ruji, is no. In part 2, you don't need to answer all the bullet points. You don't need to mention them. They are just there to help you. They're suggestions for things to talk about for the topic. But if you don't cover them all, or you want to discuss other topics related to the main topic, that's absolutely fine. So don't worry about answering all the bullet points. Okay, let's see. Hi there, Mary. Are you still with us? I can't hear you. It's okay. Mary, if you want to try and leave the webinar and then come back in using the same link, that might reset your audio. Okay, so you could try doing that. Oh, we have a suggestion. Maybe your headphones are out of charge. Good idea, Undong. Good idea. Okay. So guys, you can still hear me okay. Is that right? Let's see, because while we're waiting for Mary to come back in, we can check. We can look at some of your questions. Okay, loud and clear. Thanks for that, Thiago. Right. Let's see. A question from Anonymous. How can I find my flaws when talking, and how can I correct them? Sometimes I get confused in choosing the tense. How can I correct it while talking? Also, can I get a good band with this kind of mistakes? So yes, first of all, choosing tenses. A good idea when you're trying to answer the question is to listen to the question and try to match your grammar to the question. So if the examiner asks you, what do you think will happen, in your country in the next 20 years? The key word there is will. What will happen? So you can then think, okay, I need to choose a future form. I'm talking about the future. So I'll use will, I'll use going to, I think it might. The grammar of the question will help you to choose the tense of your answer. So it's worth listening carefully for that and trying to match it. Secondly, how can you find your flaws when you're talking? One option is to record yourself while you give a talk and then listen back to yourself. Hi there, Mary. Welcome back. Still no sound. No. Very strange, but I don't know what we can do. So
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I've taken off my headphones, so maybe that's easier.
Udong, I think you were right. The headphones were the issue. So
sorry about that. I'm really hopeless with technology. So
okay, excellent. No problem, Mary. You're back, so we can crack on with some of these questions. Prithri, if you can put your questions into the Q&A, we'll discuss the questions in the Q&A first. Okay, I'm sorry, we need to focus on the Q&A to keep things fair. So let's see, a question here from Maduka. Maduka's asking, is it crucial to speak for exactly 2 minutes in part 2?
No, it's not. You can speak from 1 to 2 minutes, but obviously the longer you speak, the better it is, the more likely you're going to be answering the question fully.
Yeah.
And then the examiner will stop you when they feel they've heard enough. So when they don't worry about going over the time. I think that's right, Jamie, would you say? Yeah,
definitely. I would say you should definitely aim for 2 minutes. Part of the criteria is that if the examiner feels like you're having trouble speaking for 2 minutes, then they can mark you down. So although the instructions say 1 to 2 minutes, prepare to speak for 2, because it's very unusual for the examiner to stop you before the 2 minutes is up. So I would try to speak for 2 minutes, not for 1. It could affect your score. So yeah, let's see. We have a question from okay, question from Subash here. How is grammatical accuracy checked in speaking? It's easy to check it in writing, but how can the examiner, recognize or assess grammar while speaking?
Oh, it's a good question. I think it becomes obvious when you're speaking the kind of mistakes you're making. So normally when you're making grammatical mistakes, you're going to be making the same sorts of mistakes all the way through. So it'd be quite easy to pick up on them. So it could be, for example, prepositions or tenses, maybe verb subject agreements. You might be missing off the S from third person. So it's very likely you're going to be making the same errors. So it would become quite obvious to the examiner.
Yeah,
quite soon, I would say. Would you agree?
Definitely, I'd agree with that. I mean, it's different from writing, obviously, because the examiner can't go back and count how many mistakes there are, but we do get an idea of the frequency of making mistakes, and the criteria say, if the majority, most of your sentences are error-free, then that could be a band 7. Whereas if you're just using complex sentences, but you make mistakes while you're producing complex sentences, then that's more likely to be a band 6. So there are differences in the way that we grade the grammar. So that would be, yeah, something to focus on. It's definitely important to focus on accurate grammar as well as the range. So guys, I'm afraid we're coming up to the end of the time that we have here. I have put some links in the chat to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook group. We also offer one-to-one speaking evaluation and tutorials, Ivy. You can find them via our premium services link. You can also drop us an email via the website, and we can arrange that for you. We've got all our upcoming webinars coming up on our website, so feel free to check them out. Mary, I think you're joining us again in about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I look forward to hopefully I'll see you again then.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah.
Sorry about the problems with my I think I've frozen again. So I'm sorry about the problems today with my laptop. I don't know what happened.
It's okay. I think we got through a good number of questions, so I think we're doing all right. And yeah, I think there's really nice feedback. Thank you, Bana. I think you found the webinar very helpful. That's great to hear. Thank you, Fong. It's always good to hear feedback from you. Shital, thank you. I can see a couple of you have tests coming up. Jasmine and Gaurav. Best of luck on your test. I'm sure you won't ruin it. I'm sure you'll do great. So best of luck to those of you taking tests soon, and hopefully see you again in another webinar. Okay. Thank you very much, Mary.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, everyone. Good luck with your tests, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.